All right. Good evening. Good evening. I am excited to be here this evening, live here with my brother Bible Marriages. And we're going to have some fun hanging out the scriptures a little bit. But just for starters, brother, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for having me. Always good to get on live streams with you and anybody else. And so I don't get to do too many of them, but always
I,
fun.
I apologize. It was a late notice. I was thinking about it earlier this week and then actually today made the official decision. And it'll become apparent once we get started. And then I dragged my feet on giving you an invite. So I appreciate you being able to drop in at the last minute and hang out with me. We should have a good time. So
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
yeah, it looks like you've got at least one of your buds from down there in your country hanging out in the chats already. Good afternoon to or good, I guess almost evening. It's almost evening here for Jaden and company. Know how you guys are doing where you are. Good evening, Graybeard. And got some more New Zealand in the house. So good stuff.
Nice.
And New Zealand, you see now that we have the Kingdom Restoration Conference available virtually. We will be talking about that probably a little bit later this evening, I'm sure. But that is available virtually, particularly for our out of country peeps. But if you're in country, you can get that as well. Maybe a little more on that in a bit. But good stuff. And tell me where you are, Kermode Bear, actual?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure that I'm familiar with this gentleman or lady or whatever. Good evening, John Davies. Good to see you, buddy. And that's up in Virginia area, Palmetto in Arkansas or Missouri? I forget which. One of my paratrooper brothers. Oh, you did. You did. Okay, so I got the name there. Fantastic. Excited that you're going to be able to join us for the virtual or for the virtual aspect of it. We're excited to be able to do it that way, to provide it that way, and certainly Oklahoma. You're further west. Okay, but very cool. New Zealand. Good to have you and looking forward. And yes, for those who do sign up for the virtual, if you're a patron, you can come on to Patreon and get a $20 discount on the virtual. We'll talk about it a little bit later on, but the virtual is available now, and it includes the edited downloads after we get finished with all of this. So South Africa in the house as well. Good evening, good evening. And for you, it's late in the evening, right?
Yeah, it looks like, pretty late there. 2 or 3 in the morning, probably.
Yeah. And I've been trying to get in touch with brother Timby because he's the one that originally got me started talking about doing the conference virtually because he wanted to come. But that's a long flight and a big expense for somebody to commit to come to the conference, and they wanted access to it. So very good. 2 a.m. That's a little. It's either really late or really early. It depends on what your perspective is, right? So Palmetto Paratrooper, fantastic. In Oklahoma, and I guess Kermode Bear knows you or says to tell you hello. So good stuff. Fantastic. Says, yeah, if y'all we've got 4 different platforms that are active right now. There's 2 YouTube, both Bible Marriages and my YouTube channels, and Bible's Facebook, and then my X account. And so, I can see all of the chats. Bible, I don't know what all you can see. What can you see? Just
yeah, I can see them all.
Okay, that's right. Because because we're working off of the same. Okay, I got you. Good stuff. So yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Glad to have you guys with us this evening. Good evening, Yuwani, from TJ's cohorts. Okay, gotcha. So that's how y'all know each other. Cool. Yeah, and yes, Jaden, I remember meeting you and Megan, I think, at the Bib Fam retreat, and we've seen you at more than one retreat because I think we saw you before that in Arizona. We saw you in Mesa, and then met you again when we were in southwestern Missouri. So yeah, so good stuff. Good stuff. Very cool. So I'll tell you kind of why I wanted to do this, and I think the title for this is The Dangerous Majority. The Dangerous Majority. And so we're going to talk this evening. Brother Bible and I are we're going to walk through Numbers chapters 13 and part of or much of 14. We'll see. But there's some great lessons here, and I was telling him the way this came about. One of my ladies came to me and she said, how'd you pick the title? And I said, well, in the middle of Shabbat, when we were sitting there doing our Torah study, and I had to go get the Post-it notepad so I could write down on it. The dangerous majority is because, that conversation we were having about the dangerous majority. And both of them were like, oh, yeah, okay. So anyway. That's how this unfolded, or this came about, and I gave Brother Bible a brief rundown.
Yeah, you gave me about 35-minute heads up and a title, and so I was like, okay, I don't know what we're gonna be talking about, but I'm into it.
3-minute thumbnail sketch right before we came on, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, never see the truth on a billboard. So. The situation is we were getting ready to do Shabbat, and in our fellowship or in our family, typically what we'll do is we'll do group fellowship, or others come here for Shabbat on the first and the third Shabbats, and typically the second and fourth, and if there's a fifth, the fifth. I'll encourage people to either go visit with others or come either that or do Shabbat with their individual families. And so we were having Shabbat. It was just the three of us sitting around the table. And our habit normally is about, 10:30 or 11 o'clock to convene around the kitchen table, or when the weather's nice, to sit out under the retreat outside and start reading. And then around 11:30 or 12, get a whole bunch of snacks, kind of a smorgasbord, and sit down and keep on going until 1:32 or something like that, and then whatever we do after. But I sat down and I was really feeling the weight of a lot of stuff from the perspective that dealing with a couple different situations on a couple different platforms, as well as some families that were really wrestling with the whole biblical headship, patriarchy, polygyny, Torah, what have you, and family members tearing the family apart. Literally a woman taking her children and leaving the house on the advice of her father, and a brother opposed to listening to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And just feeling the weight of this, saying, you teach the truth, but with it comes this burden, because now you've got families that don't always, or men that don't always handle it well or properly. And you've got families that sometimes come unglued over it because they don't follow the husband. Instead, they want to start listening to, somebody out here, the serpent. And it gets heavy. It gets really heavy sometimes. Bible, I think you're familiar with this, right? Because I know that from a ministry side, you're deep in it with a lot of different men.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally I was sitting there and I just said, I don't feel like Shabbat today, or I don't feel like reading scripture. We need to pray, and we just need to, I just need to sit here and have a snack and just sit here and just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
Long story short, we instead wisely, we did some short prayer and then wisely went into the word, and it so perfectly fit exactly what I was feeling going into it. So that's the stage for where we are and where we're going here. So anyway, you've been drug into it, brother.
That's all right. I'm happy to. I mean, it aligns with a lot of things that have been going on in my online ministry and just personal in my personal walk with trying to help people that we know and helping other families and ministering to them. So absolutely, I'm glad to be here.
So fantastic. Good evening to Brother Dave Requisite. Appreciate the subs and likes, and we appreciate anything that y'all do on any of these channels. So I encourage you, if you have not subbed to Bible Marriages, go do it. Good stuff. A lot of great content. YouTube hates him, but he's got great stuff. he finally got over the threshold to be monetized with, and hours they withdrew the monetization and slapped him with just hours. I think it was.
Yeah, wasn't long at all.
Worked so hard. Yeah. If it wasn't so sad, it'd be funny. I don't know.
No, it's all right. It is all right. I don't think it doesn't affect. I don't know that it affects my reach. It just affects any kind of monetization, which is not really what I was on YouTube for anyway. And quite frankly, this I know the way that ad revenue works, and this topic and the things we talk about are not things that people want to advertise on. So your ceiling is pretty low as far as earning anything on YouTube talking about this stuff in the first place.
I'll be straight honest with you. I know some people probably think, "Oh, Pete, you've got 8,400 subs." Yeah, we get a check from YouTube every month for about $50.
Yeah,
it's a labor of love. It's not a labor for making any money. You're not gonna make that doing this. You got to make stupid pet videos or something.
Yeah. Nobody's paying to advertise on this topic.
They should be, because this is going to be the topic that eventually, I think this is a major thing that has to do with the kingdom. There's no question in my mind. And, we talk about it all the time, but I absolutely believe the kingdom cannot be restored. And we're going to see it right here. I think we're going to see it in this passage. The kingdom cannot be restored without proper biblical headship and without the right, without at least acceptance. Doesn't mean you have to practice polygyny. You simply have to accept it as righteous and biblical and acceptable in our day and in our time. But there's so many people who say, "Oh, no," and they get they get their feelings hurt and they get their undies in a wad or whatever. And anyway,
so yeah, it's actually been something I've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 days on and off with my Isha. Is just this idea of do we have the ability to slow down or speed up the coming of the king and the restoration? And I'm not an expert in eschatology in any regard, don't pretend to be, but it seems to me that the view of, well, it doesn't matter what we do, he's coming when he comes, just breeds a level of complacency and lack of action, because it's like, what's the point of doing anything if he could come tomorrow, right? So yeah. I don't lean that way. I think we have work to do, and it's up to us when he comes back based on what we do. Now, obviously, the Most High knows, because he knows the beginning to the end, right? But we still have something to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think it's really interesting. One of the things that I was not familiar with before I started traveling back and forth to Israel was Jewish eschatology, or a Jewish eschatological framework. And a Jewish mindset says, Scripture says this has got to happen, so we've got to make it happen, because that's got to be done in order for the Messiah to be revealed, right? Mm-hmm. And so their mindset very much is, let's read the book. The book says do this. Let's go do it, right? Mm-hmm. Christians take exactly the opposite approach, and they say the book says something's going to happen, so if we sit back and wait, it's going to happen.
Right.
And so one of them's all about faith, and the other one's all about taking action, trusting what the word says and going and doing, which is very similar to the whole Shema concept, hear and do. Mm-hmm. For example, we visited the Harbor Cow Winery. I think we've been up there. Have we been up there twice or just once? I think we've been to the Harbor Cow Winery at least once, and I've talked about it on this channel before, where essentially there was a young Jewish guy who was living in the Shomron in Samaria, that region, and he read in scripture that strangers will come and harvest your vines, and that was a sign of the end of times. And he said, they can't harvest my vines if I don't have a vineyard. So he did the research. He literally did the research, discovered that a lot of that there were a number of vines in France, parts of the wine country of France, that the rootstock could be traced to Israel. That the Romans had hauled it off, and eventually the rootstock had made its way into France, being perpetuated. So he goes to France and at great personal expense purchases a bunch of rootstock, brings it back, and establishes on Har Brakah, Mount of Blessing, a vineyard, a very large vineyard with this rootstock that he brought back from Europe. Well, Israel at that time, and maybe even today, was involved in some of the Israeli wine competitions within just, 4, 5, 6 years, 8 years, a very short time span. He learns winemaking, and his wines begin winning awards in Europe on the wine circuit. So much so that they ultimately said, Israel can't come here anymore.
Oh.
And, that's an example of somebody looking at scripture and going, well, wait a minute, this has to happen. I can make it happen. Let's go make it happen. And today, in fact, through that's part of how HaYovel came to be, where HaYovel was founded by a guy who he and his family went back and forth to Israel a few times. They're just Torah keepers like us, and met this guy, and I can't remember his name, with his winery, and they said, hey, can we come prune vines? And so now HaYovel, every year, spring and fall, during harvest season and during pruning season in the spring, bring large groups to work not just his vineyard, but dozens and dozens of other vineyards through the winemaking country in the middle of Israel. Very because cool. All they're doing is looking at scripture. So eschatologically, I agree with you, Bible, that we should read scripture and say, that's going to happen. What can I do to move in that direction? Opposed to sitting on my hands and saying, well, it's going to happen. I'm just going to sit here and wait for it. Right. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree with you there. So, anyway, we've got the passage up. I'd like to walk through Numbers 13 and parts of 14. So it's going to be maybe a little bit of a light Torah study, but we're going to run through this, some things some people may already be familiar with, and then some things that today in connection with things that I was feeling and seeing and everything else, it really opened my eyes to a couple things that are worth looking at here as brothers and sisters. Okay. So I'm just going to start reading. I'm going to read the first 16 verses, and that'll lay some foundation for us, right? So Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, let me get my mouse over here. That's not what he said. He said, send out for yourself men so that they can spy out the land of Canaan, which I'm going to give to Bnei Israel. You shall send a man from each of your father's tribes, every one a leader among them. So Moshe sent them from the wilderness of Paran at the command of Yahweh, all of the men who were heads of Bnei Israel, the sons of Israel. These were their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua, the son of Zakur. From the tribe of Shimon, Shaphat, the son of Hori. From the tribe of Yehudah, Caleb, the son of Yefunah. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, the son of Yosef. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, the son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, the son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulon, Gadiel, the son of Sodi. From the tribe of Yosef. From the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, the son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, the son of Gemali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, the son of Mikael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, the son of Vophsi. From the tribe of Gad, Geuel, the son of Machi. These are the names of the men that Moshe sent to spy out the land. But Moshe called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Yehoshua. That'll give us just a real quick rundown for us. The one thing I really want to point out here, and Brother Bible, jump in any time. We'll just lay some foundation here because we're going to, once we get into the good discussion, I'm sure you're going to have lots to add here, but some foundation. These men were heads of the sons of Israel. The 12 that went to spy out the land of Canaan were not nobodies. As Roshim, I suppose. I don't know what the proper word is there, but as heads, and I'm guessing Rosh, they were elders.
It looks like Rosh.
Yeah, at the very least, these are going to be men who maybe they're the up and coming warrior leaders. They're respected by everybody around them. What they say goes. These are the young princes in the tribe that have standing in the tribes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the leaders, and I want to make that point very clear because it's going to be relevant in a little bit when this whole bad scenario unfolds. These are the leaders, right? Most of you have probably noticed this in the past, but it's interesting that Caleb and Yehoshua are from Yehudah and Ephraim, which are the two sticks, the leadership. And the two that make it into the land are Ephraim and Judah. Essentially, those are the two men that make it. So we have sort of a picture inside of the larger lesson, but the picture being that the two, you've got the two. Y'all remember? Any of y'all ever sing the song 12 men went to spy in Canaan, 10 were bad, 2 were good, right? You've all sung that back in Bible school days, way back in the day. Anybody not sung that? Are you familiar with that, Dust?
I was not in Bible school back in the day. I was raised Roman Catholic, and so we didn't sing that, I don't think.
Oh, this comes with all kinds of motions and standing up and the whole 9 yards, and 10 were bad, 2 were good. What did they do in the spot in Canaan? Anyway. But the point here, they are Yuani, they're top dogs. There's your top dogs. These are the guys that are leaders. And we're going to see that the leaders, when we get a little further down, would prefer to go back to Mitzrayim. They would prefer to go back to Egypt or do things the Egypt way instead of doing things God's way. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of the story, right? Mm-hmm. So they go, right? Now, I'm using the NASB. You see that here. I don't know if you, Brother Bible Marriages, would like to read, say, 17 through 24. I'll follow along on the screen, and then this really starts getting things for us. We can.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is when Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan. He said to them, "Go up there into the Negev, then go up into the hill country. See what the land is like, and whether the people who live in it are strong or weak, whether they are few or many. How is the land in which they live? Is it good or bad? And how are the cities in which they live? Are they like open camps or with fortifications? How is the land? Is it fat or lean? Are there trees in it or not? Make an effort then to get some of the fruit of the land." Now, the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob at Lebo Hamath. When they had gone up into the Negev, they came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. Then they came to the valley of Eshol, and from there cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between 2 men, and some of the pomegranates and the figs. The place was called the Valley of Eshol because of the cluster which the sons of Yisrael cut down from there.
Okie dokie. What do you see here? What are some things what are your thoughts here?
Hmm. Well, I was more focused on just reading it right than thinking too much about it. I'll be honest with you.
That's great. Um, the big deal here, they're going to spy it out. They're going to look. We know
Hmm.
they know when they go what the promises of Yah are. They know the land is theirs for the taking.
Hmm.
But what they see instead, they come away going, "Oh my gosh, there are giants in the land. There are the Nephilim are still there, right? And and so this is where we can, or the Anakim, it's related to the Nephilim, right?
The
Anakim,
descendants of Anak.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Actually, probably the word is Anakim. I'm gonna guess. Um, I could be wrong. But the point is the um they're seeing all the things that are difficult. They're seeing all the problems, right?
Right.
And so they come back, but they're carrying a cluster of grapes so big it takes two men to tote it on a pole between them.
Yeah.
This is kind of unusual. I'm not sure where I've seen anything of that sort at any
Yeah,
other.
and it just says it was a single cluster too.
Right. How big does a cluster of grapes have to be to put it on a pole between two men?
Hmm. Well, it does say there was pomegranates and figs too. It seems like.
That's
So I
but
guess
there's a lot going on here.
if it was like, if it was a pole, a long pole, and they're kind of got it on one shoulder and one's walking in front of the other, and they've just got it strung across this pole, that would make sense.
And this is happening late summer because it's the time of the first ripe grapes. So it's a little bit before what we would think of as Sukkot. So they're going September timeframe according to the Gregorian calendar.
Hmm.
To give us an idea here. But this is their experience. So they come back with real fruit from the land, proving that what Yah has said, a land flowing with milk and honey, right?
Hmm.
They're coming back with this between them. And then they give a report. And this is where things start to go sideways, right? And this will really kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about a little bit. And this is where I really hope that we can get a bunch of extra stuff in from our chat participants. So when they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days, they proceeded to come to Moshe and Aharon and to all the congregation of Bnei Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. And they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. Thus they told him and said, "We went into the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Nevertheless, the people who live in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. Amalek is living in the land of the Negev, and the Hittite and the Yebusi and the Amori are living in the hill country, and the Canaanite are living in the sea and by the side of the Yarden." Then Caleb quieted the people before Moshe and said, "We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we will surely overcome." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us." So they gave out to the sons of Israel a bad report of the land which they had spied out, saying, "The land through which we have gone in spying it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size." Or great being added, but the implication is they're big, men of size. There also we saw the Nephilim. The sons of Anak are part of the Nephilim, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Here's the deal, and the real connection for us right now today. is that we see, I think there are a whole lot of Torah keepers out there that read and see the promises of Yah in his word.
Yep.
But then they're afraid to trust that he will remove the problems, or that he will give victory in taking the land. And so instead they go, oh, it's too hard, I'm going back. And the place that you and I, Brother Bible, the place that you and I and many of those in our chats see it the most is in dealing with headship and patriarchy, and particularly polygyny. What I see is a lot of Torah teachers, and I've complained about this recently in another video, but I see a lot of Torah teachers that they'll even say it's not sin, but don't go there. It will be hard. Your woman won't be happy. You'll lose your friends. It's not for today, or whatever. All of the different things, they pour out all of the negative instead of saying, you know what? God's word says that this is a good thing. And so, yeah, there's some challenges, but how about we focus on the fact that it's a good thing and he can bring victory in the middle of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Torah keepers are mostly, in my experience, myself included, and yourself included, we're coming out of Western Christianity, right? Most of us are coming out of Christianity and stepping into keeping Torah. And with that comes the baggage of both Western Christianity and the world that Western Christianity mostly aligns with, at least within the home and the marriage. And so even though you get to the point of keeping Torah, that doesn't by default mean you're taking on patriarchy. It doesn't by default mean you're going to automatically align with masculine headship and all of that. So, I think we just see that we're willing to strip a lot of things, but not all the things, right? And the hardest thing to strip is headship, patriarchy, egalitarianism, feminism, and the root of that, which is just so deeply planted into all the denominations, right? Whether it's coming from Roman Catholicism and Protestantism, it's so ingrained, this egalitarian mindset, and then it's also so ingrained in the world. So, when you decide I'm gonna run my house, I'm gonna rule my house well in a patriarchal way, you're going up against everybody. It's not like you really have no allies except for the Most High, right? And so it's one of the hardest positions that you can choose to take, and that's not even talking about polygyny. It's just the woman is not equal to the man. You say that, and you're going up against the giants.
Amen. And we're going to see this more here in just a second as we look into this, because as this circumstance unfolds more, you've got the two, Caleb and Joshua. Y'all are familiar enough with the story for me to peek ahead right here, but the two who stand against the entire assembly and say, no, hold on, stop, just think. Let's go back to what the word says. Yahweh says, I will give you this land. It's flowing with milk and honey. I will go before you and defeat your enemies. Nobody can stop you. I promised this to you. I brought you out of Egypt. I did all of those great miracles. And yet the people are like, they're only at this point, at most 15 months out of Egypt, but they can't remember the destruction that Yahweh did to Egypt. Instead, they're looking ahead and they're seeing it with, somebody in here said, the spirit of fear, right? Now, whether or not the spirit of fear convinced those 10 men to lie, or what, the bottom line is they indeed are looking at things through the wrong lens. They're not looking at it through Yah's eyes. They're looking at it through a man-made lens. man-made eyes. And one of the things that we as men really, really, really have to do is read the word, accept the word, or read the word, look at it, and accept it as saying, this is what Yahweh says he's going to do. He's going to do it. Therefore, I believe it. Not, I'll believe it when I see it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's an incredibly scary thing, I think, for I'm fearful for those who look at it, for the Torah teachers who read this, going, yeah, this is what it says. This is, and they go through it every year through the Torah portions and through other parts of Scripture and connecting all these pieces. And then they say, oh, yeah, but we don't need to, we shouldn't do that. We're not really going to get taken back to the land. Don't plan on that. Or headship and patriarchy isn't really necessary for the restoration of the kingdom. Never mind the fact that everything here is to the sons of Israel. It's not to, in fact, we will see in a minute that the judgment falls on the men. It doesn't fall on the women.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, you know me, I'm a very logical person. I don't see how you can take the position that we're going to obey Yah's commands. We're going to keep the Torah, but only parts of it, and only parts of it that are comfortable.
Right.
And you're not going to, I don't think you're going to get the blessing of, Caleb wasn't saying, let's go gung ho in there half-heartedly with half faith.
Right.
It was like, no, I trust that he will deliver because I believe him.
Right.
Right. But in that faith also comes with, he's sovereign over everything. Whatever he tells me to do, I will do it. What he tells me not to do, I won't do it, to the best of my understanding and ability. I am your servant. You don't get the blessing when you're half-heartedly serving.
Yeah. That's good stuff there. Your comment with regards to not sure, are people who don't think that the whole Torah is going to exist in the millennial kingdom, for example. It says the law will go forth from Sion and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. When the prince comes, we see elsewhere in Ezekiel 43 and 44, the prince, capital P, prince is the way it is in my scripture, but I think it's a reference to the Messiah coming and going from the temple. He is going to be, Yeshua seated on the throne of his father David. He is going to adjudicate Torah, which by definition means he's going to do all of it, because he's not going to sit on the throne and say, oh, that doesn't apply anymore, because that would make him a sinner. That would make him adding and subtracting from the Torah.
Yep.
I'll be so bold as to say, and I think this is going to be probably the supreme test in the wilderness, and I don't want to go through this one. But we see, Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, these things are written as examples for them upon whom the ends of the age have come, right? At the beginning of that, because he talks about multiple different problems in the wilderness, and 24,000 fell in one day, and yada, yada, and so forth. The point being that I think that there's going to be a wilderness experience where we go back through some of this, and we're going to have to, we'll see thirst, we'll see hunger, we're going to see somebody collecting sticks on Shabbat and the need to carry out justice after the king has spoken, right? And some people think, I think a lot of Christendom is of the mindset going, oh, no. Yeshua would never say stone that person. But the Torah says, in some circumstances, you get stoned. The question is, are we willing to carry out the Torah to its fullest extent, or do we negotiate with it and say, well, I'm not really worried about that part of it. I'm not willing to do that piece of it.
Right. And obviously there's an understanding that comes with that, which is, and you get this a lot. I get this a lot when people try to get gotchas as far as Torah keeping. And it's like, well, do you do this and do you do that? And it's like, okay, well, first of all, if you knew Torah, you would know that that's not my responsibility to carry out just unilaterally in the first place. We don't have the priest in place. We don't have the judges in place. We don't have, there's all these certain elements that just aren't in place for us to even be able to carry that out. And in fact, it would be a violation in many ways to try to carry it out, right?
Right.
And so my position is simply that, and somebody tried to push me on this on Facebook yesterday. Well, do you think people should be stoned for adultery? And do you think rebellious sons should be stoned? And do you think, all these things? And my answer to them is everything that Yah says is good, I say is good. And everything that Yah says is evil, I say is evil. It's that simple. I don't need to be more complicated than that, right? It's my job to, if any of those things is hard for me to understand, is to ask him for understanding and not try to take the position that I have better morality than the creator.
Yeah. Right? And a lot of times my answer, somebody says, well, do you think people should be? It doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
It does not matter what I think. What does the word say?
Yeah.
He never came back and said, well, I retract that law, or I recant or repent of making that. I don't see that. I think, in the, what is it in Zechariah chapter 14, verses 16 through 19, he very specifically says that after those days of trouble, if the nations don't come up for Sukkot, they don't get rain.
Yeah.
That's Yahweh, or whoever's seated on the throne, Yeshua, saying, guys, you didn't send anybody up, and you were told to, and you had a whole year to plan. And every year it happens at this time. Why didn't you? You're going to experience drought. See you next year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody wants a Messiah that's a lamb, but what they're going to get is a lion. Right. Judah was looking for a lion, and they got a lamb, right? But it's not going to be a lamb that comes back the next time. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and we're going to see him in the fullness of his justice.
Yeah, I mean, I ask people not to take this conversation off the rails at all, but I tend to ask people if they believe that Yeshua, was there in the beginning, right? And if you believe that he is divine and he was there in the beginning, who is it that gave the law mouth to Moshe?
Yeah.
Right. And you have to believe that it was him. If you believe that, Moses couldn't see the Father and live, right? Or hear, or no one has heard him, right?
Right.
And so if and I believe he did, he gave all of those laws, all of the Torah and the prophets, but all the Torah is his word, and he is the word made flesh. He can't come in the flesh and contradict any of that. Otherwise he would be double-minded and it wouldn't be him.
Right.
Because he's the embodiment of the word. Right. And
in
so
fact,
it just,
the antithesis of who he is described as the lawless one. So if he's less law, then he's not the one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, to bring us back to this passage right here, ultimately what we've got the men, spies, leaders coming back from the land and saying, oh yeah, it's fruitful, just like Yah said, but you don't want to go there. There's what is it? There's dragons in them hills or something. There's something like that. But the bottom line is they're saying, yeah, the blessings are there, but God's not big enough to take care of us. He's not big enough to carry out what he promised he would do. Right. And it's a denial of him and trusting that our wisdom is better than his because we're here and we know better, which is the same thing we hear all the time with people both in and out of the Torah movement that look at the law and say, oh, we don't have to do that anymore because, this is modern times. Women can go get a job. They don't need to have covering or, whatever the excuse is. And Christendom has, a long list of them.
Right. So in that regard, speak to the thing that was weighing on you heavily, and where ultimately we're going and what ultimately you want to see accomplished. Does that question make sense, or that prompt makes sense?
Yeah. I, to give a little bit more context for this morning, one of the things that I did, I told my ladies, I said, I'm feeling so heavy over all of this. And before we started into the Torah portion, I said, I don't know if that's what this is, but it feels a little bit like what we see in Ezekiel chapter 9, where Ezekiel, I guess in his vision, he sees the command to the angel to go through and mark the foreheads of everyone who cries and weeps and sighs over the abominations of Jerusalem before the destruction of the city. And the ones that are marked, because that are broken over the sins and broken over the unwillingness to submit to what Yah's word actually says, and instead they're doing things their own way, including in that very passage, it might talk about the Queen of Heaven and making cakes to the Queen of Heaven. I think it's in that same chapter. But the bottom line is are we going to line up with what he says, and are we broken over our brothers around us that aren't?
Right.
I've literally in one of my older videos, I have a Torah teacher that's got 135 or 140,000 subscribers who sent me a message, and he said, all right, Pete Rambo, I'm willing to challenge you to a debate on your pet doctrine about polygamy or polygyny or whatever. But it's not sin. But I don't think we should do it in this day or whatever. And we had a little bit of an exchange. I told him, I said, yeah, I'll take it, but we've got to change. And we had it back and forth over the title. And then he has not since. I'll send him a message tonight or tomorrow reminding him that we still have a conversation going on, because I'd love to have this conversation with him. But he's in a position where he's negotiating with what the word says. Either if it's not sin, then why are we negotiating? What's to debate? What's to have a conversation about, apart from saying, okay, how do we do this righteously in this day?
Yeah.
There's so many leaders like these men here. They're heads of tribes who are going into the land and saying, yep, God's promises are good. There's lots of fruit there, but let's go back to Egypt because it's easier over there.
Yeah. Do you think that the Torah keeping leaders will be judged, if they continue in that, will be judged harsher than those in, let's say, churchianity, in that, I'm just having this thought as we're talking through this, like you think of the average Israelite through all of the Torah and the prophets, probably obeying more of the Torah than the average Christian is today, because they're taught that they don't have to obey hardly any of it, and yet still judged, right, and still punished. So is half-heartedly claiming Torah and keeping it going to be a bigger problem?
I absolutely believe that Yah knows our hearts, and he knows what we truly understand and what we deny because we don't like it.
Yeah.
And so I think there are plenty of Torah teachers that they like the recognition, they like the followership, they like all of the accolades that come with being, famous YouTube celebrity or whatever. I think there are plenty of them that like that, but they don't stop and think that, wait a minute, I'm accountable to a higher level, because not only do I generally understand the word, I specifically understand a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm confronted by somebody who, Bible marriages, Jared Cheshire, Aubrey Killian, whatever, any of these guys that are out there teaching headship and patriarchy, they're confronted by one of us. And then they go, I hear what you're saying, but my peeps won't like that. And so it's a lot more profitable to say nothing and teach on Nephilim and teach on, the role of elders, never mind that they get parts of that wrong, or they willingly ignore it or choose to tap dance around it and find ways to explain it away, such that they are adding or taking away from the Torah knowingly. And yes, I absolutely believe that they will be judged more harshly than those who are ignorant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where I'm at with this is, and some people are kind of talking about this in the chat, but like, regardless if you're a Baptist, you're a Roman Catholic, you're a Torah keeper, whatever, and this is the heart of, I think, both your ministry and mine, is that what do our families look like to the world? And are we set apart in such a way that our families are actually looking different than the world and how they do family, whether that be just a husband and wife or a husband and wife and children, or in the pro-polygyny area, right? A husband and his multiple wives and children. But if we're not teaching the things, regardless of the deeper levels of doctrine and Torah, if we're not, what good is teaching, going through Torah portions and all that stuff, if we're not affecting meaningful change as men and women, husbands, wives, and our children in the house? And if the root of that, which I suspect it is mostly the fear of the wife, right? It's the fear of egalitarianism. It's the fear of looking too different in our headship and patriarchy from the world. What are the consequences of that, right? Because who do we really fear at that point? And that ties back to what's going on here, because the men are looking at the land that they're being told to conquer, and they're saying, I don't really trust that Yah can get me through this, right? Or alternatively, they're trying to do it on their own strength, and that's how it ends up blowing up, because they're just trying to go and conquer without him, right? And they're doing it in an unrighteous way, and all of it goes terribly wrong. One's complacency, which leads to destruction, and one's just destruction. But the only way that we actually conquer this beast is 100% submission as a man to Yeshua, and trust and faith in him, and saying, no, we're going to go and we're going to tackle it. Doesn't matter how hard it is, doesn't matter how scary it looks, and it doesn't matter the cost. Like, you have to be willing to suffer the cost, right? There's a difference between I'm willing to accept any of the costs and going out there and purposely trying to destroy something. Those are different things. And I see a lot of, within the home, I'm afraid of the wife, and I'm afraid of what the world will think if I try to be too patriarchal, right?
Yeah.
And what her friends will think. And like you spoke to in the beginning of this video, like, what are her family members going to think? And are they going to come in and try to destroy my house when they hear of the order that I'm trying to set in place, right? And it does happen. It 100% will happen, right? And so the question is only, are you going to trust Yah through that, right? Or are you just not going to act because you don't trust him?
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely. Who is your king? And either it is the Messiah and his word, or you are, or maybe it's your woman. Who rules over you, right? So I you want
that's a hard thing. I know it's a hard thing, because all of us men, regardless of our ages, we're generally raised in the last few generations of watching, our fathers be ruled by their women. And so
Right.
we were steeped in this culture of just appeasing women. And so it's hard to come out of that, and I've been there, like I was there. So I'm not speaking to somebody who's like puffed up and saying I've gotten this right. I did not. I've got it wrong for the majority of my life, right? I've only recently, praise Yahuwah, gotten my house in order and starting to see and really enjoy the fruits of that. Um, and it's becoming something that is a witness to those around us, right? And whether they want to accept it or not, it's set apart. And if we're not set apart as families, then what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. A quick good evening to my good friend Zach, who is hanging out here. Yes, we are talking about today's Torah portion and primarily talking about it from the perspective of where the men went and spied the land, and 10 came back saying, yeah, there's lots of blessings and lots of fruit there, but there are lots of scary things there, and we don't want to take it on. We'd rather go back to Egypt. And how that relates to leadership in leadership in how it relates to leadership primarily in the Torah community that would rather stay comfortable and keep my camera just, I don't know, I'm talking with my hands and my camera keeps reading me wrong. They're more comfortable with Greco-Romanism and Greco-Roman ideas about marriage instead of understanding that the Torah teachers that don't want to acknowledge that the Torah teaches headship and patriarchy. So my good friend there, he and I have known each other for probably 9 years. I probably first met him or more, 10 or 11 years ago. Met you in Georgia at a Bib Fam retreat. It was the first time, I think. And we've kept up with each other. He's in North Georgia. So we see each other once in a great while. He gives me a hard time. I give him a hard time. It's part of what we have to do. We're good at it. So anyway, welcome there to the Revolting Man. He's got a fun channel. Yeah, you got the shout out, but you're my big brother. I appreciate you. Even though I have to straighten you out on your understanding about Torah once in a while. I was going around with him. We've got something going on in one of the post messages that I just posted the other day on YouTube. Anyway, let's keep going in the text here. Keep going. We stopped at the end of this little section here. No.
I thought you read it all.
Did we read to the end of the chapter? Yeah, we did. Okay. So we got to the end of chapter 13, and the bottom line is that Caleb and Joshua are saying, wait, guys, it's okay. Yah's got this. We can go into the land. We need to trust him. But that's not what happens next, right? All right, I'll let you read this next section. And it looks like a good division is at the end of verse 10. So read 14 verses 1 through the end of 10. And I'll scroll.
I'll accept that division, even though you hate those divisions.
I do hate the divisions, but they're somewhat convenient at times, right?
Yeah,
and I remind, you're so familiar with this, but I remind my viewers all the time, if y'all are new here, these subtitles at the beginning of chapters are not inspired. It is complete BS. The translators, sometimes it's helpful. It helps you kind of know where you are in the story. But the bottom line is, it often poisons the well, and you think about the passage in a particular way. And the one that drives me the craziest, that's, let me ask you, Brother Bible Marriages, which one drives me the craziest? Can you guess?
I probably should know, but I can't guess.
Acts chapter 9, the conversion of Paul.
Oh wow.
That one just makes me crazy every time I read it. I'm sorry, the conversion of Saul. He wasn't converted. Nowhere does it say ever that he converted to anything. He came to faith in Messiah. He wasn't converted to anything. But that's the place that Christians go, see, that's where the Jew became a Christian. He wasn't a Jew no more.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord have
There's
mercy.
that one is clean.
Yeah. Is that a title? My ladies are over here. They said something about thus he made all foods clean. Is that a title in Mark or Matthew? Very possibly is. Anyway, we'll get off track here, but
yeah,
it drives me crazy. Most of them are somewhat accurate, but just remember, don't allow these things to poison your well. Go ahead.
I just kind of ignore them at this point. Don't even see them. So, all right. Numbers 14:1. Then all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. All the sons of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness? Why is Yahuwah bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become plunder. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us appoint a leader and return to Egypt." Then Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces in the presence of all the assembly of the congregation of the sons of Israel. Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, of those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes, and they spoke to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, saying, "The land which we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If Yahuwah is pleased with us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against Yahuwah, and do not fear the people of the land, for they will be our prey. Their protection has been removed from them, and Yahuwah is with us. Do not fear them." But all the congregation said, "To stone them with stones." Then the glory of Yahuwah appeared in the tent of meeting to all the sons of Israel.
Wowzers.
Mm-hmm.
To start with, do you notice how many times in this passage it says the congregation of the sons of Israel, the whole congregation, yada, yada, and so forth?
Yeah.
Who is it talking about? The congregation. Who is that?
I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
The ecclesia?
I'm not doing any gotchas. Yeah. Well, it is the ecclesia, but it is the men. It's the men 20 years of age and above. Thank you, Palmetto Paratrooper. Look at that. He's got my back. Not that anybody else does it, but there you go, right there. All caps. Men. This is not that, this is the men. Now, yeah, some of their women are contributing, and we're going to see that a little bit later on. But the point is it's the men, and the men are going to be judged for this. Okay? We'll see that in a minute. But can you imagine? Yahweh brings his people into the wilderness. He's done all of these great things coming out of Mitzrayim. And then they say, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible. What a calamity. Let's go back to Egypt." Can you imagine going back and groveling and saying, "Please take us back as slaves. It was better here." Can you imagine groveling for that? I can't even imagine that. That's man, wow. Talk about simping, right?
Yeah.
And they're not willing to trust that Yahweh says, "I'm giving you this land. I'm giving you everything that you've got." And his word for the future says, "I'm going to put you in houses you didn't build, and you're going to sit under grapevines you didn't plant, and you're going to eat the fruit of the land for things that you didn't put there."
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Right? That's yet future.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet right here, all of the men are doing all of this whining, and Joshua and Caleb again, representative of the two sticks, because we see the two of them are the ones that make it into the land. I think that's an amazing picture. It's a prophetic picture, right?
Right.
But the men say, "Let us appoint a leader and return to Mitzrayim." So it's this idea of we don't like the headship we have. Let's go get different headship, right? We're not interested in being under Moshe. We're not interested in being under Yeshua, because I believe, again, Yeshua is walking among them. He's the pillar of cloud by day. He's the pillar of fire by night. He's the one that leads them in the wilderness, right? And so
Right.
he's right there, and yet they're saying we don't want their leadership. We want somebody else's leadership. But this right here, this particular verse right here, just really gets me. 603,550 men in the congregation, according to the numbering that had happened weeks, maybe days before this event. Numbers chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's 603,000 men in the congregation, and now there are two men standing out there saying, don't do this. Stop, guys. This is a really bad move. And they pick up stones. Now, the question, I told the ladies today, I said, you know who had the stones there? It was these two men who were standing there saying, don't do it, right? Do we have? Now, this is a question for us. This is a heart check for me. Do we have the stones when everybody around us is saying, I'm going to kill you? You need to shut up. You are a nuisance, and we need to stick with Greco-Romanism. We need to stick with the church. We need to stick with our nation, the patriot deal, right? Do we have the stones to stand up and say no? No, this is not right. The right thing is to follow the word, to do what the word says, to walk in his paths, and to keep covenant, right? Do we have the stone? And this is a real check for every man that's here in the chat, for everybody who sees this down the road. Do you have the stones when everybody around you is saying, no, don't do that. It's easier if we go back this direction. We don't have to keep all those commandments.
Yeah.
And you say no. And you notice that the glory of Yah did not appear until after these guys are standing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't standing there with Yah standing over their shoulder going, yep, I got this, right? they're trusting he will, or they're willing to die in faith, right?
Yeah. That's pretty hard to imagine, thinking, you read congregation, if you don't put two and two together and think about just how many, but at the same time, it is a heart check. It is a gut check for all men. It's just, it always comes down to, like, who do we trust and who do we fear?
Yeah. And part of it is an ingrained sense of affirmation. Are you willing to go alone? And this is one of the really good things about Torah keepers, and it's one of the really bad things about Torah keepers. A lot of them get to this place because they're willing to be lone wolves. You're willing to, give the proverbial finger to the world and say, no, I'm going to follow.
Right.
Go follow what the word says. But that's also a bad thing if those same people then go, I'll do what I want. I'm not going to follow the word in this area because it's uncomfortable or whatever. They don't really have all of the spine that they think they have, because maybe their woman or their family has control over them one way or another. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the question, though, for each of us as men, are we willing to stand in the shoes of Caleb and Joshua and say, no, I trust what the word says, and you can't convince me otherwise, even with big rocks?
Yeah. And I think for me, what it boils down to is, as we're talking to this and I'm just thinking about it, the only reason that you would you would fear the world is because you're not entirely on mission for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we all struggle as men, in varying capacities in this walk. It's how much of this life, this worldly existence that I have, am I trying to hold on to? And if your entire being is dedicated to the coming kingdom, eternity, your full submission to the master and whatever it is that he calls you to do, it's going to be a lot easier to look down the 600,000 men and say no, right? Like, because it doesn't matter what you do to me. This is not my life, and this is not, I'm not after what you're after,
Right.
right? And until you get to the point as a man where you've really truly surrendered yourself to the Most High and said, "Do what it is you want to do with me. I'm your servant," right?
Right. Right.
Um,
Amen.
you're gonna be weighing the cost,
Amen.
right? It's my job, or it's my wife and my family and my kids, and all those things, have a purpose. But ultimately, if you're gonna turn back and look, you're not worthy of his kingdom, right? And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that men need to realize and come to. And for me, that took just hitting rock bottom. And it's like, look, I thought I could figure it out. I'm a smart guy. I could manage. It took absolutely being at rock bottom just to fully surrender and say, you know what? My life is not my own. I'm done trying to figure it out. And I don't know what that is for all men, right?
hmm
It's not going to be the same for all men, but I just don't think you're going to get to the point where you're able to truly say no and I'm going to obey Yah over everything else until you're 100% sold out for the kingdom.
Amen. Oh,
And,
no.
and that goes for the women too.
Yeah.
Except that they need to be 100% sold out to the mission of their husband.
Yes.
And if they are, then they're going to be willing to say no to the influences that are around them, right? Which is friends that say, you don't need to do that, or
Right.
a mother-in-law, or a mother, or
Mhm.
even a father,
Yeah.
right? Who wants to interject and try to be the serpent and tell them not to do what their husband has commanded them or instructed them to do. If they're not sold out for the mission, they're going to be pulled away.
Yeah.
If you're not sold out for the mission as a man, you're going to be pulled away by something.
Amen. Amen. Hey guys, do me a favor and hit the like. And if you have not subscribed to the different channels, whatever, please do so. We appreciate that. We really do. I do want to take just a minute here and tell you that both Bible Marriages and I will be at the Kingdom Restoration Conference in Alcoa, Tennessee. That's the Knoxville area, literally at the airport on the property there. July the 9th through the 12th. We're really, really, really excited about that conference. It is available for those who can't make the conference in person. It is available online. We will have this as a virtual opportunity as well. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be fantastic. A lot of great stuff for headship and patriarchy. We've got some fantastic speakers that are going to be there. There's a whole lot of really cool things that we're doing this year. We're starting some new stuff that I think in future years we're going to look back and say that was a game changer. So would love to have you at the Kingdom Restoration Conference. If you go to the kingdomrestorationconf.com, the title right there on the screen, if you go to that, you can see exactly who the speakers are going to be, what the program is going to be, what registration is, where we're going to be, the dates, all that kind of detail, as well as the virtual opportunity. The virtual opportunity, if you are a member of MaximaPotentia.com or if you are a member of my Patreon, patreon.com/parlay with Pete Rambo, you can get a $20 coupon or a discount code, and we would love to have you participating even in those platforms, because those are there for the purpose of helping you grow. So good stuff. Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
So I can't wait to. I mean I saw you last in December of last year when I was out your way, and looking forward to seeing you and your woman again. My ladies can't wait to see her, and it's going to be a good time. We're going to have a great time, and I will thank you as well. For a lot here. Brother Bible Marriages has been helping me out a great deal with a lot of the logistics and behind the scenes and the web management and stuff like that for this conference. It's something that we're putting on, and we really would like to have you join us because I'm telling you, it's going to be awesome, right? We do still have space available, so not a ton, but we've got a little countdown meter over here on the on the window where we're counting and praying for seats to be filled and praying for virtual slots to be filled, because we really would like to see a lot of people blessed by this and challenged and grow through this. So appreciate it.
Amen.
All right. I am going to move on in the text. That was the commercial. One of my ladies said, "Play the commercial," because I've got something in the background queued up. We might play it a little bit later on. It's about 60 seconds. I probably took more than that to give my description, but I'm telling you. And Brother Revolting Man, you look at this. Look at this beautiful guide-on pole that I have right here, complete with a family flag, all that. You need one. You need one. In fact, the recommendation is to have one at the conference because we're going to do some particular stuff with recognizing patriarchs, recognizing families, and building headship and patriarchy through strengthening men and helping identify your calling as a builder of clan and tribe. You are correct there, Mr. Revolting Man, and you're not the only one with that opinion. Okay. So just so there you go. Anyway,
classic Revolting Man.
No, it is. It is late on Shabbat. I'm guessing he's probably already deep into the relaxation. So anyway, good stuff. So Neko, I try to get out there. Just need to get the time off from work. Do it. We would love to have you. Come on. If you can't make it, the virtual opportunity is there. Anybody who comes in person or does the virtual will get a link to download all of the edited and neatly assembled talks afterwards. And then we'll also have the whole thing available as a package deal to be able to purchase. So that's something too. But why not get it? Because even if you only make it virtually, I'm telling you, the opportunity is there to be able to possibly get some hot takes from people. We may have some other camera stuff that doesn't wind up on the final edit copy. So you'll get a real good look at the up close. Brother Dustin, how are you, sir? It's good to see you. All right, so let's move on into chapter 14 because this is going to. Now it's going to move from affecting the leaders to affecting the men to affecting the whole congregation. Okay. And where are we? We should be at the top of the chapter here. Let me go.
I think we read to 10.
Did we read all the way down to 10? Yes, we did. Okay, I'm going to pick up at 11. Yahweh said to Moshe, "How long will this people spurn me? And how long will they not believe in me despite all the signs which I have performed in their midst?" And this is a question that we have to ask Torah teachers. What do you mean you don't believe that this part of his word is true? What do you mean that doesn't apply today, that things have changed? I challenge them. Because it's the same thing. It's the same attitude going, well, I agree with a lot of what you say, but I don't really agree with that. I mean, we're more modern now. We have women can work. They can be uncovered or whatever, right? whatever the excuse is, right? I will smite them with pestilence and dispossess them, and I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they. But Moshe said to Yahweh, then the Egyptians will hear of it, for by your strength you brought up this people from their midst, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, O Yahweh, are in the midst of this people, for you, O Yahweh, are seen eye to eye while your cloud stands over them, and you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and in a pillar of fire by night. Now, if you slay this people as one man, then the nations who have heard of your fame will say, because Yahweh could not bring the people into the land which he promised them by oath before he slaughtered them in the wilderness. But now I pray, let the power of Yahweh be great, just as you have declared. Yahweh is slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the iniquity or the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations. Pardon, I pray, the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your loving kindness, just as you also have forgiven this people from Mitzrayim even until now. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I just see this everywhere in the Torah and the prophets. It's just this repeated, it doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter how much he does signs and wonders. Like, his people just repeatedly fall off the path, right? And it's him continually saying, I'm going to spare a remnant, not for you, but for my name's sake, right? And over and over and over again, it's the same story. And it's like, how are we this far along with this much access to his word, right? No other assembly, no other time in history has his people ever had the amount of access to his word that we do right now. The average Israelite for 90% of his people's history could not pull out their phone and just scroll through all of his word and have access to it like that. Like, I truly believe that's part of his new covenant promise of writing it on our hearts, is that we have access to it like never before. And yet here we are, still being the same rebellious people saying, I don't think we should do all of that, right? We don't need to really obey. And even worse, on the more Christian side of things, churchianity side of things, somehow all throughout his people's history, he's been judging them and condemning them for not obeying him. And now somehow it's gotten flipped to, if you obey him or you obey the Torah, it's a problem. Now he doesn't want you to obey his Torah. You know, I'm not sure when that transition happened, but in Amos, he says he's never going to do anything without sending a prophet to tell his people about it. And I can't find the prophet that says, at some point, I'm going to want you guys to do the opposite of what I've been telling you the whole time.
I mean, yeah, totally agree. And a lot of encouragement there with the fact that he's consistent, right?
Yeah.
One thing that I find really interesting about this passage is that in the midst of all of this, he's got problems going on with the leadership, the leaders from the 12 spies. He's got problems going on with the congregation. And instead of dealing directly with them, Yahweh turns to Moshe and he says, I'm just going to destroy all of them, and I'll start with you. You think he's throwing a test? You think he's throwing a test on Moses at this point, and he's saying, I'm going to give you an opportunity here. Let's see where your heart is in all of this. Because Moshe could have gone, well, these people are terrible. Yeah, I don't blame you if you do. We'll just start over.
Yeah, because surely, Moshe is
Jacob.
he's human and frustrated with the fact that they are the way they are, right?
Yeah.
And surely, we have examples in our own lives of that, where it's like, as men, as leaders, as husbands of wives and children, it's like, okay, you're talking to Yahuwah and saying they just don't listen, you know.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity to just throw them under the bus,
Mhm.
or plead for them, right?
Yeah, so to me it's a little bit interesting that Yahweh uses this as an opportunity. I think I could be wrong here, but I think it's a test of Moses because it wasn't. It was just a couple chapters ago. I think it was just 2 chapters ago. Was it 2 chapters? Yes, it was. Chapter 12, verse 3, the verse that makes me laugh every single time. The ladies reminded me of this today at this point, because we're talking about the test of Moses. And they said, yeah, wasn't he the guy that said he was the humblest man on earth? And I think that's the most comical. I do believe it was probably added later on. I don't think Moshe wrote that about himself. And he was the humblest man on earth.
Yeah, I always just think of like, the Most High, or Yahuwah talking to him and being like, no, you have to write it. You have to. Yeah, he's like, no, I can't write it. I'm humble.
You're right, Dad.
No, write it.
Here, Aaron, come in here. I need you to write this line for me because I can't do it. But seriously, here the whole congregation is in rebellion, and Yahweh looks at Moses and says, "I can start with you. Would you like to be the one?" And and Moses does not only does he do the right thing, but he protects the name of Yah because he says, "Look, if you were to do that, it will destroy your reputation among the nations."
Mm-hmm.
And I can't let you destroy your reputation. I can't let the nation say, he couldn't handle all these Israelites, man. That's why he put them down in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about Moses right there, right?
Yeah, and it's a picture of, the servant being about the business of his master while also leading the people that are below him. Right. And, I think about that in terms of how a wife should be to her husband. Right. I think in the more patriarchal type of circles or whatever, it can come across as though, as men, we want women who are just silent and don't talk and don't have any opinions or don't have any anything. Right. But if you kind of take Moses down a couple of layers, that would be a wife who is talking to her husband and saying, between the two of them, no, like, consider this, right? That your reputation is on the line, and giving him wise counsel in that way, right? While also being in full submission to him. Obviously, Moshe would have done whatever Yahuwah wanted him to do. Right. But he cares about his name, and he's, I got to believe he also just doesn't want to see all of his people destroyed. Right.
Amen. So good stuff right there. Fantastic. Let me see where we are here. Moses pleads.
14:20. I think you
started in 20. Yeah, start in 20. Would you like to read there, picking up in 20?
Sure.
That's a long run to the end of the chapter. There's not a good division in the middle of it, though. Go ahead. I'll scroll and we'll back up and talk about it.
All right. So Yahuwah said, I have pardoned them according to your word, but indeed as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of Yahuwah. Surely all the men who have seen my glory and my signs, which I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, yet have put me to the test these 10 times and have not listened to my voice, shall by no means see the land which I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who spurned me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he has had a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land which he entered, and his descendants shall take possession of it. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites live in the valleys. Turn tomorrow and set out to the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation who are grumbling against me? I have heard the complaints of the sons of Israel, which they are making against me. So say to them, as I live, says Yahuwah, just as you have spoken in my hearing, so I will surely do to you. Your corpses will fall in this wilderness, even all your numbered men, according to your complete number, from 20 years old and upward, who have grumbled against me. Surely you shall not come into the land which I swore to settle you, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. Your children, however, whom you said would become a prey, I will bring them in, and they will know the land which you have rejected. But as for you, your corpses will fall in this wilderness. Your sons shall be shepherds for 40 years in the wilderness, and they will suffer for your unfaithfulness until your corpses lie in the wilderness. According to the number of days which you spied out the land, 40 days, for every day you shall bear your guilt a year, even 40 years, and you will know my opposition. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. Surely this I will do to all this evil congregation who are gathered together against me. In this wilderness they shall be destroyed, and there they will die. As for the men whom Moshe sent to spy out the land and who returned and made all the congregation grumble against him by bringing out a bad report concerning the land, even those men who brought out the very bad report of the land died by a plague before Yahuwah. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh remained alive out of those men who went to spy out the land.
Right.
And when,
Yep.
you want me to stop there?
Yeah, that's the next break in this particular translation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what stuck out to me,
yeah,
is verse 24. But my servant Caleb, because he had a different spirit and followed me fully, not half-heartedly, not 90%, not fully, right? I will bring into this land.
And there's some debate about the name there, Kalev. If we go with just the letters, it's either Kol Lev, meaning all heart, or Kalev, meaning dog. Which it's interesting. Also, a dog is just
right.
It's all heart, but Caleb also, I think, was a Kenite, which may or may not have come directly from Judah. They may have been, what in the military would call strap hangers. This is like jumping on. He was a leader in Judah who may have been an alien or sojourner. May have been an alien or sojourner. I think some believe that he was. Where there are a number of other prophets. I look, for example, at Elijah, and it says he was a Tishbite of Gilead, but that doesn't really tell us. We don't know anything about his lineage, none whatsoever. Just that here he is, suddenly this guy that goes into Ahab and said, "It's not going to rain till I say it does." I always find that interesting because nowhere do we have a record of Yah telling him, "Go tell Ahab." I think he just had enough of Ahab, and he went in and said, "It's not going to rain till I say it does." And then I get this impression that it's like then Yahweh says, "Okay, all right, let's do this. He's got the stones. Let's do this." I find that one to be super funny. But Caleb, and I think Cody had asked earlier how many wives he had. Ironically, Caleb is one of the ones who inherits the land. And clearly the text tells us he had at least 4 and maybe 5. There are two Calebs at this point in did I lose my camera? I lost my camera.
Looks like it, yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'll see if I can play with it. But yeah, I just bumped the cable and it did that. That's my laptop. But the bottom line is that Caleb was committed and he was going all in and standing with the Father no matter what. And he's one of the 2 that inherited the land. And he's also clearly listed in the genealogies of possibly in either Joshua or Judges, but also a genealogy in Chronicles that tells us that he was that he had more than one wife, either 4 or 5. There are 2 Caleb's listed. But that polygyny will keep you out of the land.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the other thing that sticks out to me is the men obviously and their children, and obviously by consequence their wives suffering because of their weakness, right? And to a degree, Yahuwah saying, in verse 31, he says, "Your children, however, whom you said would become prey," it's kind of like, I'm gonna I'm gonna punish you, but I'm also not gonna do it so long that I'm gonna let what you said happen, right? I'm gonna make sure the children you said were gonna be prey don't actually become that, but you're not gonna get in. And so as men, like, how do we practically apply this to our life? How much are we operating in that fear and that weakness? And are our families suffering temporal consequences in the meantime because of that? Because there's going to be consequences. And maybe your children, maybe our children after us, if we're just going to be rebellious and not listen to them and do the thing, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same outcome. So it's of the utmost importance for us as men to be walking in obedience to the Most High, so that we're not suffering, and as a result, our women and children are not suffering needlessly either. So it looks like we lost Brother Pete there for a minute, and it looks like he's back. His camera's still not back.
Yeah, I could still hear you. I was trying to get something straightened out here, and it's not behaving. It's not helping me out. But anyway, yeah, but we can continue as long as you can hear me. We're good.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. So I don't know if you caught what I just said,
No,
but
I heard all of it.
okay.
And what we're going to see a little bit further on is that the women and children will suffer somewhat out of this, although ultimately the promise for falling in the wilderness is to the men, right? It's very clear when we come down here. What verse was it? It says, "Your corpses, as I live, just as you have spoken in my hearing, your corpses will fall, even all your numbered men." The judgment falls on the men, right? And it does qualify it with those who grumbled against me, but it sounds like the vast majority did, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it says your women and your children are going to see the kingdom, or they're going to see the land. And so my speculation, a particular connection to Isaiah chapter 3 and chapter 4. If you read to the end of Isaiah chapter 3, there's judgment that the men have, but there is there's judgment on the women, the scabs and the hair and the whatever, all of that stuff that's listed in the latter part of Isaiah 3. But if you go to the end of the chapter, it specifically said men die by the sword. So the judgment for the men is death. The judgment for the women is they're going to be separated from their men, and then they're going to have to, we see in Isaiah 4, the restoration is that they come under the headship of a righteous man, which seems to be what happened in the wilderness, and that's probably how Caleb picked up additional wives as well as other righteous men, it would appear, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now in verse 33, it does say, though, your sons will be shepherds for 40 years in the wilderness and will suffer or bear your unfaithfulness until your corpses lie in the wilderness. So, there was unnecessary suffering for quite a while for their sons because of their unfaithfulness, right? So how much are we as men, if our families are suffering things that they shouldn't be, the cause of that in our unfaithfulness?
Yeah. A quick note for the comment section. There's a discussion between Revolting Man and Palmetto Paratrooper about how in the world are they streaming this thing vertical and horizontal at the same time. It's one of the luxuries of StreamYard, using a program here that streams it in both, I guess, both ways, so that people who maybe are driving or don't watch, just listen. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But for people who have their phones in some other application in a vertical manner, can watch the vertical versus the horizontal, and that's an option. So, yes. So it's
so that causes a little bit of confusion in the comments section because different channels don't. Obviously, if somebody we see all the comments. So if someone comments from Facebook, we see that.
Yeah.
Or if someone comments from the vertical YouTube version, we see that. But not everybody else is going to see that in the live chat.
Yeah, so for y'all out there, you can't see how many are in the live because you see how many are on your particular platform. But right now we've got about 45. It's been up around 50 or 45 doing the live, so on and so forth. We've got some on Facebook and some. So it's cool. It's a nice streaming option that allows the ability to use or stream to multiple platforms simultaneously as well. So it's pretty cool. All right. So the judgment that happens here falls on the men. And there are too many times that, and this goes back to something that we were talking about before, Brother Bible. We were talking about at the beginning with regards to women who may want to walk differently than their husband does, or what have you. And, how does the judgment fall? I don't know if you want to try to tie some of that in here or whatever, but I will say that women, your chief security or your safest place is to follow your man, right? You're not judged. You're judged for disobeying your man. You're not judged for following your man, even if he's not necessarily doing everything right according to what you think.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have comments that you want to make on that as we go or not.
Yeah, that's a whole
it's
a whole talk in and of itself.
It's a can, but it's worth laying a little bit of that out here real quick.
But yeah, I do 100% agree. I think that the safest place, the most biblically defensible place for a woman is you were given the command, you're given the instruction to obey your husband in all things. And so obeying your husband in all things, if you're doing that with a submissive and obedient heart, in that you are obeying him because the Most High has instructed you to, he's going to be accountable for what he instructs you to do. And I just trust in that covering, that covering means something, and that accountability means something. And I think, I have a concern that we as men should really respect that covering and understand what it means and be willing to be held accountable for it. And I think if we waver in that and try to, say, well, she should obey him, but not if he tells her to sin, which, we hear quite a bit. I think the slippery slope there is, well, now she's the judge of what is sin and what is not sin. And that goes for her, everything, every command. There's no way to draw the line, because the easy stuff is, oh, well, if he says, murder somebody, you might think that that's an easy thing to say. She should just say no to, but she might not have all the information, right? She might tell him, or he might tell him, do this thing, and she thinks, no, that's a sin, but she doesn't have all the information. And turns out, he was actually doing something completely lawful, and she just didn't know. But the point is, if she's in charge of deciding if the command is righteous or unrighteous, then she's in charge of deciding everything. There's no line to draw there, right? And so you're putting her in the seat of responsibility, and you're essentially saying, in my opinion, I think you're saying she's the master and she's the head. You would never tell your child, whose one command is obey the parents, right? So that'll go well with you. That they should then try to discern whether or not the command is righteous or unrighteous. And I know a lot of people will scoff at that and immediately say, well, women aren't children. I'm not saying that they are, but I'm saying that women have a pretty simple set of commands given to them, much like children. And if we as men are willing to take the responsibility and accountability for being their head and covering, then I truly believe that the vast majority of men out there are not trying to make their wives sin. I think a lot of people would say that that's the case to create scenarios and to create situations where they could then, whether it's a woman or a man, encourage the woman to disobey her husband in order to be rebellious, and or get out of the situation. But we don't have enough people saying to men and women, no, like she should just obey her husband, plain and simple, and let the Most High deal with him, right? And if things are really egregious, then the assembly around him is going to deal with him through the instruction of the Most High and the Ruach, right? So to me, it just comes down to a lack of, do you trust the master of the man, right?
Right.
Or are you putting the woman in the position of having to discern everything? And I can't find anywhere in scripture that would cleanly draw that line where it's like, all right, well, on the 10 commandments, she should obey him explicitly, but then anything else, she's got to decide. And we know from talking about polygyny all the time that even in Torah movements, right, there's the vast majority of wives don't believe that polygyny is lawful. They think it's sin.
Right.
So you're going to say that she shouldn't obey her husband if he's saying, I'm bringing another wife into the family?
Right.
Because she truly, in her heart of hearts and her studies, believes it's sin. She's going to then divorce him, or run to the elders and say, he's sinning. And unfortunately, even in a lot of Torah assemblies, the elders would agree with her. So I think it's a very dangerous and slippery slope, to be teaching that. And so right. I would rather just say, women, obey your husbands in everything, even if they're disobedient to the word, and let his master deal with him, right? And he's going to be accountable.
Completely agree. And Ioanni makes a good point here that, we mentioned it earlier, but Isaiah 3 and 4, it demonstrates that the women are not held accountable in the same way that the men are. I wouldn't say that they're not held accountable, period, because I think there is an accountability that's there, based on the fact that Yahweh does some judgment on them. They're supposed to know better in some way, but the judgment is very different. The man is the one who dies by the sword, and then ultimately are preserved, presumably when they turn in righteousness, etc. And are joined.
Yeah, and the difference, in Isaiah 3, when we're talking about the daughters of Zion, they're haughty and walking with outstretched necks, right? That's not the kind of submissiveness that I'm talking about, right? That's not a woman who is being described as, she's just obeying her husband and everything and sinning, and he's causing her to sin. No, these are, married or otherwise, these are women that are haughty and rebellious, right? And it actually sounds like they're kind of ruling the house,
right?
And so that's a different thing. I think we're nowhere near the vast majority of women just blindly obeying their husbands. And like I said a few minutes ago, I don't buy the whole, all men out there, the majority of men out there who just have this innate desire to command their wives to do evil things, even unbelieving men, right?
Yeah.
I just don't buy that. I think that's feminist hogwash
rhetoric.
That the vast majority of men are just innately evil and just want to hurt women. I don't see that anywhere in the world. I just see most men trying their best and unfortunately getting run over at this point, because we were all raised to fear everything but Elohim.
Yeah. Completely agree. But who does he preserve? He preserves the wives and the children, the sons. They're going to have to grow up. They're going to have to learn. But but they ultimately will grow into leadership where they're willing to trust Yah and walk in his ways. Something that's interesting about this passage, though, is that the men, the leaders, we talked about them at the very beginning. I would say that they're at least a form of elder. They're the chief warrior, the ones that are selected from each tribe to go spy out the land. They're not weak and incapable.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least at the very least, I think are functioning sort of in a role as elder, if not as elders.
Right.
But the men whom Moshe sent to spy out the land and who returned and made all the congregation grumble against him by bringing out a bad report, those men who brought out the bad report of the land died by a plague before Yahweh. They didn't even make it into the next 38 years.
Right.
Right. So the men who were judged for the next 40 years they died off over an extended period of time. But these men, they died right here. Period. End. Done. Right. You're gonna come back with a bad report and you're gonna try to lead people back to Mitzrayim. I'm done with you.
Yeah.
Your term of leadership and your recognition is over right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this should serve as a huge warning to Torah teachers, to pastors, to those in leadership positions, because we hear all the time the verses from the New Testament. Do you not know that you who are teachers will be judged with a harsher judgment, or something like that? It's Paul says it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Paul that says that. And this is an example right here. They mislead the people. They try to lead them back to Mitzrayim, and Yahweh says, toast, done. You die right here.
Mm-hmm. It was James 3:1.
James. Yeah, that's right. You are correct. Yaakov. But he didn't write that to the church. He wrote that to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. So anybody that's in the church, if they don't think that they're part of Israel, it probably doesn't apply to them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. Anyway, good grief. All right. My turn to read?
Believe so, yeah.
All right. I'm going to finish out the chapter right here. When Moshe spoke these words to Bnei Israel, the people mourned greatly. In the morning, however, they rose up early and went up to the ridge of the hill country, saying, "Here we are. We have indeed sinned, but we will go up to the place which Yahweh has promised." But Moshe said, "Why then are you transgressing the commandment of Yahweh when it will not succeed? Do not go up, or you will be struck down before your enemies, for Yahweh is not among you. For the Amalekim and the Canaanite will be there in front of you, and you will fall by the sword, inasmuch as you have turned back from following Yahweh, and Yahweh will not be with you." But they went up heedlessly to the ridge of the hill country. Neither the ark of the covenant of Yahweh nor Moshe left the camp. Then the Amaleki and the Canaanite who lived in that hill country came down and struck them and beat them down as far as Horn. They just won't learn.
I'm thinking as you're reading this, I'm like, was this just thinking like, you know what, we'll give it our best shot because 40 years sounds pretty awful. We're gonna die anyway, so we're just gonna send
Let's get it over with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they don't seem to learn.
it just are we that way? Am I that way?
Mhm.
When Yahweh says, and this is, it's easy to look at Israel and go, oh yeah, those Israelites, man, they were terrible, right? It's easy to do
Right.
that.
Mhm.
But what we need to do is we need to go look in the mirror and say, am I this way? Does he say do this and I don't? Does he say do that and I don't? Right? Or don't do that and I do? This kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's really what we've got to do.
Yeah, and is that a product of the in my estimation or my belief, the false teaching that the church is separate from Israel, right? And so you read back through Israel growing up in the church and you look at them as a separate people than you, right? And so it's easier to say, oh, well, those just stiff-necked Israelites, right? We're different.
Yeah.
Versus, if you understand that you're either, in my belief, you're either probably one of the the lost sheep being gathered back, or you're a sojourner who's choosing to be in covenant and go along with them. Either way, like, you'd be identifying them as your people, right? And so
Right.
you'd be more inclined to think, hold up, my people have been doing this forever, right? Is this what we're doing today? Does that
Mm.
make sense?
Yeah. No, that's yeah. Oh, yeah. We really have to weigh carefully, where are we, and are we leading our families in the direction Yahweh says to go, or are we leading them in middle ground, saying, yeah, he says these things and I believe those things, but I don't believe these things over here. That's really, I think, where a lot of these guys were when they got judged.
Yeah.
And ultimately they said, Egypt might be easier. Let's go back and do the Egypt tour because that was a lot more fun. Or whatever.
Yeah. Well, Egypt is it, even though it may have not been necessarily comfortable, there was comfort in knowing you knew what to expect, right?
Familiarity.
And this new thing is a whole different ball game, right? It's scary. And so, yeah, there's a lot of drive to just return to what is familiar, even if it's not ideal, right? Because the unknown could be worse. You never know. And so if you're not just walking in complete trust to whatever the circumstances may be that he puts us in, and in this case, he's promising them, amazing things. They just don't believe. But they got to go through some things to get there, right?
Right.
And going through those things to get there in this world, we look at it and we think, man, if I stand up for myself and what I believe scripture's telling me about headship, patriarchy, family structure, I got a lot of giants that are coming after me, right? And what I think is also missing, though, is what is the promised land on the other side, because we don't have enough examples of families that are living this out in its fullness with the fruit that men can see. Oh, you know what? It is worth it. Like, the giants are worth slaying. And
Right.
so for those of us who are a little bit further in that journey, whether that be with one wife or multiple wives, like, we it's so important for us as men to be doing this, and for the women especially to be aiding the men in doing this, so that we can be that example to all of the other families. And part of that is going to conferences like the Kingdom Restoration Conference, but part of it is just being in the fellowships that we're in and just living our life normally, and inviting others over to our house. Like, if you're inviting people over to your house, is the way that your wife is with you an example to the other wives, right?
Mhm.
Is the way that your children are behaving examples to the other parents, such that they would say, man, look, I know what they preach, I know what they believe in, right? I want that. I want my wife to serve me in that way. I want my wife to look at me like that. I want my children to be that respectful. Yeah, it's worth the trouble that I'm going to go through to get to that point, to that promised land.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough example of that right now for most men to look at it and say, yeah, I want to take on those giants, because
Yeah.
they don't even know what's on the other side. It's theory, right?
Yeah, I completely agree that we're at a place where we need more righteous examples walking it out well that can do it publicly. And I completely agree with you too. As as my brother, Revolting Man, can attest, and there may be there are some others that were in here earlier. Some of the Bib Fam retreats years ago, but that helped us. Kelly
Mhm.
will tell you particularly that really helped. And then we've been to a couple retreats, the three of us. Is that right? So we've been to several retreats together as a family, the three of us. But the Kingdom Restoration Conference, while the focus isn't polygyny, the focus is the kingdom. We absolutely will be having elements that deal with polygyny. Never mind the fact that you have opportunity to get around the Killians, the Ridgeleys, the Rambos. I'm trying to think of other polygynous families that are going to be there. I think there are a couple others that are going to be there, but I'm hesitant to call names because I'm not 100% sure.
Mhm.
A comment on here for just Annette's Ream. You made the statement that that weekend you won't be able to be there, and I understand that. I respect that. If you can catch, go ahead and get the virtual. If you can catch parts of it, catch it. You can catch it live, which would be fantastic, and probably be able to chat with other people in the sidebar as it's going on for whatever portions you can get. But when it's all done and we've got it edited, you can download. We will provide you with a free download link to get copies of all the edited full pieces that you may not have seen initially. So yeah, it's worth going to the site and registering for the virtual and catch as much of it as you can, and then whatever you can't catch virtually, go back and catch all of that and get replay on all of the stuff that's going to be done. I have Brother Jan is about to publish a book. He asked me to write the foreword for it, and I wrote that and sent that to him. I sent that to him a couple days ago, and I don't know if the book will be out by the time we get there, but I know his talk and probably some other things that he's doing as part of the conference speaking team are going to come directly out of the book that he's getting ready to publish that specifically works with men's health, and what it takes to build family, clan, tribe, and the relationship to the word and the tongue and lots of others. Amazing stuff. I read the book this week, and I can't wait to get a hard copy that I can go back and highlight and make notes in. And it's a book that I will read more than once. But that talk all by itself, because I know his subject material that's coming up, that talk all by itself is going to be worth its weight in gold.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
worth the price of admission.
Okay, yeah, you're the marketing man. I should let you do this, right? So much better than I am at this. It's fantastic. You have a gift. So absolutely. I don't know what else have you got? This is as far as I wanted to go in the scriptures. I don't know if we've got anything else you want to touch on right here. Otherwise, we can just answer questions, and then if anybody's got anything in the chats, other things they want to ask about.
Yeah, I think opening up to questions would be good. Otherwise, yeah, I don't have anything that's sticking out to me to point out.
All right, pull that down. It's been good hanging out with you, brother. I can't wait to see you guys again. I'm extra blessed because most of the speakers and y'all get in the day before, and so I've got an extra day with all of these guys as we get set up for the conference and get to hang out a little bit together and maybe go to dinner or something. I can't wait. I get to hang out with these guys because I won't get to see them during the conference. I'll be too busy talking to everybody else, right?
Yeah,
so
it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably be pretty busy running the cameras and all that. So I know it's going to be a busy conference for me too. So try to get in as much where we fit in, for sure.
So Amen, amen. And we appreciate all the men. That's my real heart. I appreciate this comment right here, New Zealand. But my real heart is to grow and to build for the kingdom. Most people here, if you've ever received one of my books that I've signed, or you've received any correspondence from me, I usually have Isaiah 58:12 in there. You shall be called repairers of the breach, restorers of the streets on which to dwell. And that's a portion of that verse. But the fact is, who do you want to be? And for me, and I know for my brother Bible marriages, we desire to be men who ultimately in the kingdom, there are those who look and say, hey, there goes one of the guys that helped to rebuild the kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's a real calling. I believe that's a real thing. In the same way, there will be awards in the kingdom. There will be people who wear crowns of different sort, right? The crown of life, the crown of, and I think martyrs and different ones have different callings that will be reflected in who they are in the kingdom. And I don't think that we'll walk in a room and say, who's that guy over there? We'll be able to look and go, that's Abraham. There's Jacob. But I think there are other people along the way that we'll be able to look and say, that's so-and-so. And I know they were called to do such and such, and they were part of the kingdom and did their job. Right. And I think you and I share this passion for restoring the kingdom, putting this thing, building the pieces, building the foundation, and waiting on the Father to Mashiach to put it together.
Yeah, I'm so weary of this wicked world that we exist in, and just
Me both.
the more that I throw myself into the Torah and his ways, and just learning, all about his justice system and how everything works, the more, and having gone through plenty of the injustice system that we have, at least here in America. Yeah, I just long for the kingdom. I long for his ways, and him reigning and ruling, and right ruling and actual justice. And so whatever part I can play in speeding that up or helping that out, sign me up, send me. So
Amen. I appreciate you, brother. Seeing no questions in here, I'll just say thank you so much. And it has been a great evening. Guys, we'd love to see you at the conference. Come to the conference. Or get on the virtual, and at some point, I'm confident that we'll have a chance to get in front of the camera and talk directly to the virtual crowd, as well as interact, throughout the conference in the chats and that sort of thing. But you definitely want to be part of this thing coming up. So, thank you.
And don't if you definitely know that you're not gonna be able to make it, don't wait on getting the virtual signed up. There is a lot of cost associated with putting this thing together. And so it helps us tremendously in budgeting and just being able to get the gear that we need and all of that to kind of know where we are in order to put this thing together. So, don't wait until the last minute. We'd really appreciate it if you're definitely going to do the virtual, to just get it done as soon as you can.
Amen. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And talking about gear that we need, you mentioned something the other day to me, and we need to talk about a switcher.
Yeah, so, I've been doing some more research and talked to a buddy of mine, so we'll get together offline on that and make some final decisions.
Yeah, let me know, and we'll get that ordered up and figure out what we got to do to get it. So I'm excited. I am really, really excited about this thing. It's going to be fantastic. Sometimes I can't sleep at night because I'm thinking about details.
Yeah,
I'm wearing my right Kingdom Restoration Conference T-shirt. So
nice.
Yep.
Very cool.
Very excited.
Well, I appreciated this. Thanks for hitting me up at the last minute for this one. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I had a great time. Blessings to you. And shalom to Brazil. You were probably watching the World Cup earlier today. And I don't know, what was the final on
that? 1-1.
The Brazil Morocco wound up 1-1, I guess. So
nice.
So anyway, yeah. paying attention a little bit to soccer around here, but not much. It's not enough time for it, but yeah, it's kind of fun to watch. So
You mean football?
yeah, football, football, football,
Football.
football.
Nice.
Yep. So that's when you speak Portuguese, it's football, and then you got to talk about Ronaldo and Ronaldinho and Pele and who are some of the other greats.
Neymar.
Yep. And I was told today, no, you can't talk about Maradona. Right?
No.
He's Argentinian, arch enemy of Brazil. So I was given a lesson on Portuguese or Brazilian football etiquette.
Nice.
So it's fun. We had a great time. All right, guys. Love y'all. Look forward to seeing you at the conference. Blessings and peace to you so much. Shalom, shalom. Y'all have a great evening.